I always end up with too many zucchini, so let's make some zucchini pasta recipes. I'm going to start by grating some zucchini on the finest setting. For this one I want it to basically disappear into the sauce. Once it's all grated, I want to squeeze out as much of the water as I can. That way it doesn't make our sauce too wet. Started out by squeezing it by hand. Then I switched to a strainer to get the rest out. Alright, I'm going to get a skillet going over high heat. I'll throw in some ground beef. I think this is about a half a pound. Start browning it. And to make things easy for seasoning, I'm using half of a Hidden Valley Ranch packet. For those not in the know, the main flavors of ranch are various herbs, most notably dill, and buttermilk, which I'm sure is in this packet as some sort of milk powder and citric acid, just to add some extra tang. And there's a ton of salt in here as well, so I'm not going to add any later on. I'll mix that in thoroughly, then add some garlic. And this may look like a lot of garlic, but with the jar stuff, it's a lot less potent, so you want to use a lot more than you would with some freshly minced garlic. And I'll throw in the zucchini, and I want to mix that in so it's thoroughly integrated into the beef. Let it cook for a little bit until the rest of the moisture has come out of the zucchini. And now I want this to be a cheesy sauce, so I'm going to add in about a half a cup of grated Parmesan. Throw that on the back burner over low heat, just to keep it warm. And next I'm going to cook some spaghetti. Here I have some spaghetti alla chitarra, which has a sort of square shape that I like. It tends to have a more rough, starchy texture. So we'll get a nice creamy pasta water at the end. That'll add a nice smooth, creamy texture to the sauce. So to maximize the amount of starch in our pasta water, I like to use maybe about 500 mils, half a liter of water. That way we're left with as little water as possible in the end. Once the pasta is al dente, I will add some of the meat sauce directly to the pot. Mix it together, let it cook for a couple more minutes, and then we can plate it up. Now this is a really nice, fresh tasting meat sauce. Got the nice beefy flavor, the creamy texture from the cheese and that starchy water, the zucchini lightening things up a little bit, and the ranch packet adds a nice bit of tang and freshness from the buttermilk and the dill. Just a nice, easy weeknight meal for when you don't feel like really cooking, but still feel like cooking, if that makes any sense. Alright, for this next one, I'm going to dice up some zucchini, cut it in half, then in quarters, cut those quarters in quarters, then do a nice rough dice. Next I've got these beach mushrooms that I really like. They have a nice, almost buttery flavor. They're kind of hollow and tubular, which adds a nice texture, and I just think they're neat. For the larger ones, I will split them down the middle. They're kind of stringy, so they'll just peel apart. Then I'll do a rough chop on those. Alright, let's get our skillet piping hot over high flame. Add some oil. Throw in about 50 grams of butter. As well as the zucchini and mushrooms. Mix those together, let the butter melt into it. Then I'll throw in a couple tablespoons of garlic. Mix it all together. Add a couple pinches of salt. Some freshly cracked black pepper. And we can set it aside and focus on the pasta. Again, I'm going to add about 500 milliliters of water. This time I'm using a shallow pan, which adds a bit more surface area for the water to boil. I'll add a few pinches of salt to season the water. A couple servings of spaghetti. And let that boil until the water becomes starchy and creamy. Alright, I'm going to add that to our vegetables. Mix it all together. The pasta should be nice and glossy because of the butter and the starch. And again, we'll add about a half a cup of parm. This one is a bit like a traditional Alfredo, because you got that butter in there and you got the parm. They're going to mix together and become a nice creamy sauce. Alright, so we can plate that up. Kind of failing on my pasta swirl here. Some real behind the scenes content. And this one is really delicious as well. You've got the background creaminess from the cheese and the butter, just coating everything. The fresh black pepper adds a little pep. Zucchini adds a little bit of sweetness. Mushroom adds a nice texture. And again, another simple weeknight meal. So I hope you guys give these a try and let me know in the comments what you thought.